Hi, Britt Davenport here, and welcome to another episode of On the Vice. Tonight we are going to be tying a flashback halfback. Say that 10 times fast. So it's just the regular halfback pattern. I just add some flash on the wing case. I don't know if it does any better, but I like it. So, and I'm a firm believer if you like it, you'll fish it more confidently. So the original halfback was originated by John Dexheimer from British Columbia, and it utilized groundhog tail for the tail and throat, which I just find interesting because some other patterns up there, like the Carry Special, that were popularized up that way, also called for groundhog, which we don't see that material being used a whole lot nowadays. And so it just makes me think of back in the day, there must have been just millions of little groundhogs running around, and so that's why they used it. Nowadays we use more readily available materials, like pheasant tail. That's primarily what we use on it now. You can tie this in quite large sizes and smaller sizes, so just depending on what you're hoping to imitate. And I've personally had pretty good success, especially in the lakes, but also on the streams, using it as a dropper, that sort of thing. So let's get started. Head over to the vise. So this is what the pattern looks like. It's kind of your basic looking little nymph. To start with, we're going to be tying it on Ahrex freshwater 561 size 12, which is just your traditional nymph barbless. Put that in our vise. Remember, if you're using the Norvise system, you want that hook shank to be coming out directly off the top of your jaws. That's what allows it to spin on that center axis. For thread, we're just using Semperfli Classic Waxed in black 8/0. So I'm going to start my thread. Loosen that tension nut and just lay down a nice thread base. For the tail, we're just using natural pheasant tail fibers. So get a small clump of them, so maybe 6 or 7 fibers. Pull them 90 degrees and just strip the feather away from the fibers. That'll allow you to keep those ends lined up together. I'm going to do 2 loose wraps. That way I can move that feather and slide it to the position I want it. I tend to like a little shorter tails on my nymphs. So, yep, that's about right. And then I do tend to pull those fibers up and take 1 wrap underneath. Just to it secures them in really well, and then it kind of kicks them up a little bit as well. As Dave Hughes says, it's just a little bit sexier when they're kicked up like that. Trim those butt sections off. Next, we're going to be tying in the rib, which is just a French Oval Tinsel from Semperfli in gold in the small size. I'm going to tie that on the far side of the shank. Just hold that in place with a hair clip. For the body of the fly, we're just using strung peacock herl. So grab out 6 or 7 fibers. Then we're going to trim the tips off. That's the most brittle part of them. Advance your thread to just in front of the halfway point and tie those in. And just take spiraling loose wraps to the back. And then some securing wraps at the very back of the hook. Go ahead and put a half hitch in. We're going to take our thread, take it over to our thread post, take this peacock curl, bring it over on top of the thread, loosen the tension nut on your vise, and then go ahead and give it a spin. And so by doing that, we just made this chenille rope. And now what I like to do, I like to take, and this can be a little tricky, just one wrap behind that rib. Oops, as I bump my camera, which is really sad because it's quite a ways away. Just so it doesn't slip off later. Then you can secure that back with that hair clip if you want. And then we're just going to take wraps up the body all the way to that point where we had stopped earlier, just in front of the halfway point. I like to unwind the herl from the thread and then tie it off. You could also tie it off like a dubbing loop if you want to do it that way. Next, we're going to tie in, we're going to throw the rib in there. So I'm just going to do another half hitch, bring that over, and I'm just wrapping regular and not counter wrapping it. You certainly could counter wrap it if you wanted. It will be more on top of the herl doing it that way as opposed to down in it. So it just more or less depends on how much you want to see of it. At this point, it's not being used as a reinforcement like it often is because we made that herl rope early on. For this part, we're going to work on the flashback now. So I'm just using, it's this Iris blue, which is just this lovely blue color. And it's just the Semperflash medium mirror blue Iris color. So I've just snipped a bit from the hank. I'm going to take that underneath and then up and over. And then just pull it through. You want it right on the top of the shank. Once you have it where you need it, go ahead and wrap that down. Again, use the hair clip to hold that back out of the way. So right now we've got that just straight coming out the center of the hook, or center of the top of the hook. For the legs and the shellback wing case, we're just going to use again natural. So this time I would take about twice as much as you used for the tail. Try to keep those tips aligned, which I did not do a very good job at. Bring your thread towards the eye, and we're actually going to tie these in out over the front of the eye. If you do those two loose wraps, you can play with them a little bit. And what we'll eventually do is we'll push them back towards the rear. I like to have them about the length, about half the length of the hook. So once you have those in place, wrap that all the way back to that stopping point of the body. Then we're just going to grab some more peacock curl. Here comes the dog, if you can hear her trotting through. Hi, Mimi. Let's switch out real quick. Mimi, look. Mia, look. Anyways, back to the fly. So, just gonna tie in some more peacock Herl. Make sure you have it tied in tight up against that back end. Go ahead and throw your half hitch in, and we're just gonna make a little rope out of that. But this, as small as it is, you probably don't need to make a rope out of it, but I really like making ropes, so I do it anyways. You want that to be just a little bit bigger than the body. So I've just untwisted that, and now I'm going to tie that off. Trim out those butt sections. And now at this point we're going to try to divide those legs as best we can and just push them back and under. And then just take a few wraps over top of them to hold them back and down. All we have now is to pull that wing case up and over. Do one wrap over, one in front. Pull that blue over. Make sure to tug on it a little bit. Now we can trim all those butt ends off. Go ahead and make a nice tidy little head on it. You can finish that with a 4 or 5 turn whip finish. So you could just leave it at this point, but to make the durability a little bit better, we're going to add just a layer of UV. So I'm using No Tack UV Resin Thin from Semperfli over that wing pad. Just kind of makes it stand out a little bit more, and then will help with the durability as well. So just put a bit on there, move that around, take it down onto that head. Once you have it coated to your preference, you can go ahead and hit that with the UV light. And there you have it. We've got one little stray guy hanging out the front there, so I can go ahead and just trim him away. That's what God gave us scissors for. And so there you have it, the Flashback Halfback. Thank you for joining us on another episode of On the Vice, brought to you by Hackles and Herl Fly Fishing. If you find this content valuable, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate it very much. Click the bell if you want to receive notifications for future content. We're hoping to do 1 video a week at least. We do love to hear feedback from you, so drop a comment down below if you have questions, general comments, or if you want to give us some suggestions for future videos you'd like to see. We also, kind of as a last note, we do provide custom order flies, so if you're looking to fill some fly boxes, drop us a DM and we can hook you up. Again, thank you, and we'll talk to you next time.